Supplies is gone now, but honestly, the tech never made any sense to me. Technologies in Age of Empires 2 are usually a way to buff your units. For example, fletching gives an extra attack and extra range to your archers. Black and arrow gives another extra attack and range to your archers, and something like forging gives an extra attack to all your melee units, both cavalry and infantry. Technologies buff your units and gives them extra stats. However, supplies was a complete black sheep in this case. All it did was bring the cost of the militia line down a little bit, from 60 food and 20 gold to 45 food and 20 gold. That's it, a 15 food discount and nothing else. Didn't make them stronger, didn't increase any stats, no hidden bonuses, that's all it did. So essentially, you saved 15 food per infantry unit you made, specific to the militia line, so militia men at arms onwards, at the cost of the initial investment, which in the case of supplies was 150 food and 100 gold. The tech was available in feudal age, so technically you can pick it up pretty quickly. After getting supplies, you needed to make another 10 infantry units to break even with your food investment, and then another 7 more units to break even with the total resources invested into supplies, into the technology. Now, this alone is an unusual concept, but it's not unheard of within the game. For example, the Gurjaris Castle's unique tech gives them a food discount on all of their units. Now, I want to say that this is completely different in the case of supplies tech and the Gurjara unique tech compared to a bonus like the Portuguese, which gives you a flat discount on all gold units from the start of the game. The reason is, when it's locked behind a technology, you now have the choice to make the units at regular price, or if you pick up the tech, you get them at a discount only after you finish researching the technology. So in the case of the Gujaras, you can get the unique tech in the castle age from a castle, so it requires a pretty big investment. You pick up the technology, you pay for it, and then you get the savings only afterwards. That kind of makes a little bit more sense because it's a unique tech tied to a specific civilization and it affects a wide variety of units, whereas with supplies, it was a general tech available to many different units and it was only locked towards one unit. This makes it very strange because now you have this one unit that you can make a little bit of it, but if you want to make a lot of it, suddenly it might be worth getting supplies, but then if you get supplies early, you're never really sure how many units you're going to make. And so this one unit in the game had this mechanic where if you wanted to make a lot of it, you had to get a tech first, which just kind of slowed down the whole operation. It also created this awkward situation where you can make a few infantry units early game, but then it was an absolute cardinal sin to make more than 10 of them without getting supplies. The problem is though, practically speaking, you don't always know how many units you actually need in the flow of a real game. Sometimes you want just the initial 3 and then okay, maybe just a few more, something happens, I just need 2-3 more and that's it, I promise. And then it snowballs, a tower comes up, an army comes up this way that you didn't expect, and suddenly you end up with 15 infantry units. You didn't plan for this, you only wanted the initial 3, but one thing led to another and suddenly you ended up with 15 of them. Issue is, in this scenario, you can't just randomly sneak in supplies during this process because the tech itself is quite expensive. Costs 150 food and 100 gold. That's 250 total resources, and you can't just randomly sneak that in. On top of the cost of the tech, it would also cut the flow of your production, and it doesn't give you any immediate benefit, meaning that when that 250 resource costing tech kicks in, you're not any stronger. You have to wait until you get back those resources by making more of those units to get value back from the tech. You don't actually get any immediate or even near future benefits from paying for that tech, from all that initial investment. And imagine that scenario in a real game where you're making a few of them, then you need more, and then okay, you know what, I'll just pick up supplies because I feel like I'm going to need a lot of these units. But then worst case scenario kicks in, you're trying to sneak in supplies, and then the infantry play flops. It cuts your production and you lose that momentum, and now you're stuck because you already picked up supplies, so you're stuck with a tech that does virtually nothing because you have no more momentum to push with the infantry. The infantry you have left over are not getting any stronger because of supplies. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do you make more infantry even though it's not really correct in that scenario just to use the tech that you paid for, or do you just abandon the tech entirely even though you just spent 250 resources on it? And remember, 250 resources in Imperial Age, that's like a burger and fries. You're not even thinking twice about that. But in Feudal Age, that's like college funds. 250 resources in Feudal Age, are you kidding me? That's like a third of the cost of Castle Age. That is not something that you just spend in one night when you're having fun with the boys. 250 resources resources is a month-long process of thought and dedication and consequences. There's a lot going into these resources, guys. All right, it's a pretty big deal when it comes to feudal age games. So it's not this like trivial thought of, yeah, I'll just pick it up just in case, because there's really just not that many resources to go around. Just to give you a comparison, bloodlines cost 150 food and 100 gold. And if you have 10 scouts, every single one of those 10 scouts gets an extra 20 HP when you pick up bloodlines. That's immediate value. That's stone cold value after you pay for the bloodlines. That's a much better deal than supplies will ever be in the feudal age. Now, okay, all of these awkward situations have been pointed out. What are the practical consequences of this? What did players do now that there's clearly awkward scenarios coming out of this problematic supplies technology? Well, the consequences of this situation is that players would basically make 2 to 3 infantry units early game and then never touch the units until late castle age at least. But usually they won't even touch it until Imperial Age. And even then, it was still a pretty unpopular option. Infantry was absolutely in the gutter when it came to like the meta, which is like what players wanted to go for in most games. Besides those first 2 to 3 infantry units, they were so unpopular. Nobody wanted to mess with them. Nobody wanted to invest into them. And it was basically just seeing no real play, especially at the higher levels of the game. No one really considered them a viable option in most cases. Despite all of this though, like up until this point, the tech is a little strange and it's making things uncomfortable, but it's not too weird. You know what I mean? Like I'll still sit at the same table of supplies. It's not too weird. It's okay. You know, we can make things work sometimes. I might pick it up here and there if I'm feeling, you know, maybe I'm recording a YouTube video, want to pick up some supplies. It's all good. However, when Gambisons was introduced, it became a total disaster. Gambisons is a tech that's currently still in the game. Costs 100 food and 100 gold, and it gives the militia line and fire lancers an extra pierce armor. For the sake of this video though, we're going to only focus on the militia line because fire lancers didn't exist when supplies were in the game. Don't know if they're related, but that's the way it is. So what's the weird part about this? Well, they locked Gambisons behind supplies, meaning to get Gambisons, you first had to get supplies. Kind of like how Bodkin Arrow is locked behind fletching. The issue here though is that Gambisons and supplies are not related whatsoever. They have nothing in common. One of them, supplies, gives a discount on future units from the militia line, and the other one, Gambisons, gives them an extra pierce armor. How is a future discount related to an extra pierce armor now? Like, the texts just don't even mesh at all. They're not even remotely related, aside from them affecting the same unit line. That's the only relation that they have. Distant cousins at most. Fletching and Bodkin Arrow have the exact same effect, and they stack, making the second one more valuable, whereas with supplies and Gambisons, you can make the argument that you want just the Gambisons and not the supplies in a certain situation. You can really argue that right now, I just want Gambisons. I could not care less about supplies. I would rather not have that tech. I'd rather just be able to pick up Gambisons because I got 10 longswordsmen about to attack my opponent. I just need that extra pierce armor. I don't need to pick up supplies and invest into more of this unit. I'm not planning to make more. I just want that pierce armor. However, since Gambisons was locked behind supplies, you had to either go all in and get both, or you couldn't get either. And the perfect argument here in favor of this just being so weird is that not a single person would ever want to pay for Bodkin Arrow and get the benefits of Bodkin Arrow before fletching, because fletching does the same thing, but it's cheaper. That's how a tech is supposed to be. You lock the second tech behind the first tech, so you have to get the first one, which is cheaper but does, you know, one thing. Then the next one, it costs more but it does the same thing, which is better because it stacks now. That's how the game works. That makes sense. Supplies into Gambisons absolutely does not make sense whatsoever. Making the two techs, Gambisons and supplies, locked together was incredibly strange. What's worse though is that when a civ didn't get access to supplies, they had strong infantry, so they wanted to like kind of balance it and not give them supplies to make them, you know, even stronger and cheaper. It also meant that they don't get Gambisons. If a civ didn't get supplies, they by default couldn't get Gambisons. So basically, we now have civs that get cheaper militia through supplies, and they get extra pierce armor on them through Gambisons, and then other civs that get neither. You don't get the discount and you don't get the extra pierce armor. This created a situation where some civs have zero incentive to play the infantry line whatsoever. You see your neighbor down the street, he's playing with 45 food militia and he gets a pierce armor, and you're stuck with 60 food militia with no pierce armor? I will never show my face with that option in any game whatsoever. There's no reason for me to go for that unit in late game when I'm paying so much for it and it's a lower tier unit. So unless I got one of these techs or both techs, or unless I had a really good bonus for infantry, I was never going infantry, like literally 0% of the time. And then when you did get both, you know, supplies and Gambison, you had a huge edge over the player that didn't get either of these techs. You basically had very viable infantry and they had very weak infantry. In addition, they had to balance the infantry line around the civs that get supplies and gambisons, meaning the unit was balanced at the 45 food and 20 gold mark in the late game. That's what most civs were paying for it, so that's where the balance had to be. If they balanced around the 60 food, then the 45 food unit, after supplies kicks in, would probably be too strong. So they balanced it around the 45 food, 20 gold costing infantry unit, so you were essentially getting scammed if you had to pay 60 food and 20 gold for it when your civ didn't get supplies. You're paying a higher price for a unit that's balanced around a lower price. What a weird scenario. The unit is balanced around one thing and then some civs just get something else, but they pay more and they get the same unit. It just didn't make any sense. The whole situation was absolutely weird. Honestly, everything around supplies was strange. The tech was weird, and I'm so glad that the devs decided to chuck supplies into the bin and brought us a completely newly balanced infantry line that flows much better. Gambison's is now its own standalone tech, so you can choose to pick up the +1 pierce armor or delay it. Choice is up to you. It's no longer tied behind supplies. You don't need to buy supplies first, which does something completely different to be able to pick up Gambisons later and get the extra pierce armor. You can just either get the pierce armor or not. Kind of like how you want to get bloodlines or not. That's it. It's a one-time decision for a tech that does a specific thing, and it has no links to any other tech now that, like I mentioned, does something completely different. Oh, and the best part is, now the unit is properly balanced around the 50 food and 20 gold cost throughout the entire game, and for all civs, making it a much more viable option. Now, infantry civs with their own bonuses have a strict competitive edge over all other civs and no longer have to worry about other civs randomly having a 15 food discount on infantry. Like, for example, Goths that get a really strong discount on their infantry, they were going up against other infantry that also got a discount from a random supplies because Goths didn't get access to supplies themselves. This is no longer part of the game. Now Goths get their own discount, and it's a strict competitive edge over other civilizations, which do not get a random discount from supplies because supplies does not exist, and the world is a better place. Everything makes a lot more sense now. Infantry's back to normal, and hey, the infantry line is actually pretty good now. So that's nice. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy this nice commentary on supplies and this nice little ramble on a tech that's no longer part of our game. So we're looking forward to a world where there's no supplies and no more awkward scenarios for the infantry line. If you guys do enjoy this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you guys want more content from me, check me out on Patreon for all my exclusive guides and content, including rec reviews, a secret Discord where I answer questions about Age of Empires 24/7, round the clock, whenever you want. Just tag me and answer your questions. It's the best customer service on the planet, and many other perks in the Patreon. Definitely check it out, link in the description below. It's also the best way to support me, so definitely be sure to take a gander at that at the very least. And of course, come down to check out our Twitch channel. Link of that is also in the description below to come and watch us live on Twitch playing some Age of Empires. We'd love to see you guys come down from YouTube. You get special treatment when you come and say what's up and let us know that you're from the YouTube channel. That's gonna be it for today though. Again, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.